Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. So today we're going to be looking at the Florida results in terms of the primary elections. I just covered the Arizona ones, and then we will go into Oklahoma in another video. But pretty much the Florida election results were very interesting, and some of them actually do favor the Democrats, and some of them do favor the Republican Party. So first of all, the governor's race was a huge upset on the Democratic side, and pretty much it was because Gwen Graham was expected to win by a considerable amount. I mean, the polling numbers all favored her, number one. If we look at the Florida Democratic primary, according to Real Clear Politics, Gwen Graham leaded by, I believe, 7.2%. And that was not the final result. If we're looking at the numbers now, she did not win by 7.2%. She didn't win at all. Gillum got 34.3%. And actually, well, if we go ahead and take a look at the polling numbers, well, Gillum had 12% of the polls. Okay, Philip Levine had 18.8%, and then Green had 14.5%. Andrew Gillum completely, he was the huge underdog. Nobody really paid attention to him. Being fourth in polling and then going on to win with 34% of the vote that's drastic. That was a huge upset on the Democratic side. That is something that is going to be, flaunted by many progressives, considering that this candidate was backed by Bernie Sanders. But it's also not that large of a victory, to be completely honest with you. I'm not taking that away from him. He did, against all odds, win the Democratic primary. But if we look at the 2016 results, he only got 1% more than what Bernie Sanders got in 2016, when Hillary Clinton won with 64.4% of the vote in the Democratic primary. We look at these numbers now. He got 34.3%. An exact 1 percentage point more than what Bernie Sanders got. So it's not that Democrats are changing. It may just say that if this was a two-way race, he could have won or he could have lost, because we don't know the numbers there. But we could say that all of the progressives backed Andrew Gillum, and he won by a plurality. Because keep in mind, personally, I think if this was a two-way race, he would not have won because there aren't that many progressives in Florida. This is not a state that is very fond of progressives. If we look at the 2016 Democratic primary results, Hillary Clinton was an easy favorite to win. This was called at poll closing time for Hillary Clinton out of Florida. Keep in mind, this is typically a swing state, but not so much in the Democratic side. Andrew Gillum won by a plurality with 34.3% of the vote, which means that really only 1% more of Democratic voters moved over into, what you would classify as the progressive type candidates. Not saying that he didn't win and that this wasn't some huge upset, which it was, because this was not expected. He wasn't even in the runnings. Being 4th% in polling, that's like Jill Stein winning the presidency in 2016 type of surprising. So him winning there, phenomenal for that wing of the Democratic Party. Unfortunately for them, progressives aren't too popular in Florida. He's not a self-proclaimed Democratic socialist like some other candidates are, so that's not something that's going to hurt him, because he isn't one. But I definitely think that Ron DeSantis and other GOP candidates are going to paint him as one just to inspire a GOP turnout. Whether or not it's true, and it isn't true because he isn't a self-proclaimed one, but labeling is something that has worked very well in the state of Florida, especially when we look at what happened in 2016 in the state of Florida, which was expected by some to go to Hillary, and by Real Clear Politics to go to Trump. He still won it by a larger margin than he was leading in polling in. So pretty much, look at this state right now. Gwen Graham was the only Democrat to actually lead against Ron DeSantis in opinion polling. So that's also something that's going to be a major issue. The electability issue is going to be very important to Democrats and Republicans there when they look at this race and whether or not they will add funds into it. So I think this race will narrow down after the primaries are over. Pretty much, I think Ron DeSantis and Andrew Gillum are going to go up in opinion polling, but we're going to start seeing new polling because no political pundits really expected this race to go to Gillum at the end of the day. Personally, I didn't. That was the only race I predicted wrong from last night. But pretty much, sorry, not last night, 2 nights ago on Tuesday. But it's very interesting to see those results. In terms of the United States Senate, not much to see here. 2 incumbents in different offices, one for the Senate, one for the governorship. Rick Scott easily wins the Republican primary, winning every single county here. Rocky De La Fuente still going at that. So pretty much the only thing noticeable here is the governor's race, but there are a couple of contested races, actually a bunch of contested congressional races, some held by Republicans, some held by Democrats. We'll start off by going down the list and just look at primary turnout. Some of them may have contested races, but let's look at the House District 7. So right now here, this is a contested race with the Democratic incumbent. If we look at the vote totals, the Democrats narrowly edged out the Republicans in this state. Also, we're going to look at the total vote totals right after this in terms of statewide compared to 2016. But pretty much if we look at this, House District 7 is a contested race, 56,800 voters on the Democratic side, 56,800 voters on the Republican side, nearly a 1-to-1 ratio in terms of voters. So that is going to be a very contested race come November. In Florida's 13th district, there is a uncontested race on the Democratic side But this one also to look out for the Democratic Party. Uncontested race on the Republican side this time, but still a pretty contested race in the Democratic primary in the 16th district, another contested district, the 18th district. The Democrats have 57,000 votes, and the Republicans have 71,000 votes. Not as much as a difference as you might see right above in the House District 17, where there are 43,000 votes and 78,000 votes. So still, right now, House District 18 is still a contested race, not so much as a pure toss-up, but here's another race that actually is pretty contested. The 25th district has 2 uncontested races here. That one should turn out to be very interesting. Right after it, the 26th district is also contested. 33,000 votes on the Democratic side, with an incumbent on the Republican side, 35,000. So that one is going to get pretty close as well to see that there. And then in House District 27, this is the only shining spot for the Democrats here with no incumbent. Right now, this is a Republican district. There were 39,000 votes on the Republican side and 44,000 on the Democratic side. So the Democrats doing pretty well there, but still nothing comfortable at all. I mean, having 5,000 votes in terms of difference could show excitement on the Democratic or Republican sides, but for right now, that is pretty much the only district that actually shows good news for the Democrats. But statewide, it shows very good news for the Democratic Party. If we look back in 2016, the Democrats got a total of 42% in terms of vote share. 42% of primary voters were Democrats and voted in the Democratic primary. Now we go ahead and take a look at 2018. 48% of them were Democratic voters. So that is a huge improvement, and that's just based off the governor numbers. It will be based off the Senate numbers. We don't have Senate numbers for the incumbents, but it's a little bit higher for the GOP, so it's around 47, 48, but that's still an improvement. They're not getting 42% like they did in a presidential election year, and because this is being labeled as a Democratic wave year, it shows that excitement definitely is up amongst Democrats. Just, it's pretty surprising to see type of candidates that were 4th place in polling now going on to win races. I mean, it wasn't expected for him to get even over 15% of the vote, much less 34%, and outright winning the Democratic primary. Gwen Graham has been the frontrunner in almost every single poll. If we look at the polls, there was only one time, truly, where it tied in the most recent polls. I'm reading them off right now. Graham +3 was the first poll taken, and then there was a tie. Levine +2, Levine +1, Levine +2 actually got 3rd place with only 20% of the vote. And right after that, Graham +9, Graham +4, Graham +9, tie, Graham +12, Graham +7, and Graham +7, and finished off with the average of 7.2% for Gwen Graham. So pretty much that was expected for her to win, but she did not win, which isn't good for establishment Democrats, to be completely honest with you, because Andrew Gillum was that Bernie-type candidate who wasn't really expected to do well, especially in a state like Florida, but was able to. On the Republican side, Ron DeSantis was expected to win against Adam Putnam, but that race was, of course, contested because it is the state of Florida, and many people go for the race here. But also, again, looking at these 2016 numbers, pretty much on the Democratic side, it's pretty much identical in terms of progressive voters. 33.3% for Bernie Sanders, 34.3% for the Bernie Sanders-backed candidate, and then pretty much all the rest of the votes just split amongst other candidates. We look on the Republican side, 45.7% for Donald Trump here, 27.9% for Marco Rubio. Ron DeSantis got 56.5%, so over the majority. And Adam Putnam got 36.5%, so a 20% win. And as for Donald Trump, not so much, around a 20% win if you round up, but I guess a 19% win if you do round up. But let's go ahead and take a look at the last time there was an election in Florida, which was the presidential election. And Donald Trump won with 48.6%. So still a plurality, not a majority, but Hillary Clinton got 47.4%. Donald Trump got 1.2% more than Hillary Clinton in the state of Florida. And right now, Rick Scott leads by 1.5% statewide. And Florida currently approves of the president, +4, and Republicans had more votes than the Democrats in the state of Florida. Yes, there is a little bit more excitement on the Democratic side, which means that this race definitely could get closer in terms of the Senate and the governor race in the state of Florida. But for right now, it still shows good news for the GOP. They're fielding all the right candidates, and in terms of the Democratic side, again, progressives are not too popular in Florida, so this will be a very interesting race because pretty much we have a 100% Trump backer and then a Bernie Sanders backed candidate, so it will be something pretty interesting to watch. Once that first poll comes out, I will be analyzing it because, again, Florida is going to be one of those first places where 2020 candidates are going to focus on because, again, every presidential candidate focuses on Florida, so it'll be very interesting to see the results from the 2018 midterms and to see if polling is accurate at all in the state of Florida because right now, not too confident in terms of primary polling, but let's see how accurate general election polling is. So thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I'll see you all tomorrow.